Today we're driving the 2023 Hyundai Ioniq 6. However, this is the SE long-range rear-wheel drive. Starting price is around $46,000. It'll do 361 miles on a full charge. It's rear-wheel drive, one electric motor in the back, making 225 horsepower. Let's walk you guys around this car today. We'll talk about what it's been like to live with this week, and then we'll take it for a drive and give you guys some driving impressions. So we've already spent a considerable amount of time in the Ioniq 6, but they've been dual motor all-wheel drive versions. This is kind of probably the best value Ioniq 6 to get because it has the most range, it's rear-wheel drive, it's hyper efficient, and it's the least expensive. With the EV tax credit, you can get into one of these for under $40,000. It's maybe not as practical as the Ioniq 5 sibling, the kind of lifted crossover hatchback looking thing, but it has a really nice form factor, it's a bit sportier to drive, and I think overall it's a pretty nice looking EV sedan. This morning, it's a little bit tricky to get these door handles out. They were frozen shut to the car. We've got a pretty sizable back seat. Plenty of leg room in here. I'm 5'10". This is my driving position. There is just a lot of space in the back of this thing. Headroom is a little bit cramped for people over 5'11", 6 foot, but otherwise you'll be pretty comfortable. We have some cloth seats, a pretty bare bones basic cabin, heated seats, no heated steering wheel, the bass sound system. We'll test that out a little bit later in this video, but everything else you pretty much need. It's got highway driving assist, a good adaptive cruise control system, different drive modes, auto climate control, wired CarPlay and Android Auto, and just all the other Ioniq 6 finishings that you're used to at this point. Kind of a funky looking design, but it is growing on me. Kind of almost a Porsche 911 looking rear end here. We get a powered tailgate. Oh, and then here's the window sticker. And you can see here, 361 miles on a full charge, $46,825 total price. This is painted in transmission blue. That's interesting, very cool. And it'll charge on 240 in about 7.5 hours. You can fast charge this with the 800 volt charging architecture. In 18 minutes, it'll do like 260 miles or something like that. It's pretty good, 10 to 80% in about 18 minutes, which is fantastic. 18-inch wheels, which ride quite nice. We get a tiny frunk like we see in a lot of the Hyundai, Kia EVs. It's all kind of ride on the same platform. They have a lot of similarities. Go. Just a little bit of storage space in here, but mostly fluids, running gear, stuff like that. 12-volt batteries up there. Parametric pixels in this Ioniq 6. Anyway, we won't bore you guys with too extensive of a walk around today since we've already walked around this car a couple times, and it's freezing. It is 12 degrees Fahrenheit outside. So we have a significantly reduced driving range today. 232 miles at 90%. Normally that should be over 300 miles, but because of the temperature, we see a significant drop, about 30%, maybe a little bit more with the cold temps. Nice big infotainment screen, responsive, pretty good integration of tech in this Ioniq 6. I just wish we had physical controls for the heated seats, and it would be nice to get a heated steering wheel for this price point. You have a quick access button there for your climate control, so that is nice. You do get some quick access buttons down here for your map, your navigation, your media, a custom button right here that you can select. Parking camera, which is just a reverse camera in this car. You can turn on and off your parking sensors in this. This week I've noticed that if I pull up to a car in traffic, the parking sensors will go off. So that's a bit strange. They might be a little bit overly sensitive, but you can have those to default to turn off and only turn them on when you really need them, which is nice. No quick constant home button, at least in CarPlay. Wired CarPlay connects pretty quickly, seamlessly, easily. No bugs there this week. No wireless charging. We just got a cable connection here. Cup holders, a bit of storage in there, and down here on the bottom. It's lined with a kind of a rubberized plastic, which feels pretty grippy. No sunroof. These visors slide. I mean, a pretty basic interior, but for the money and for the range, I think pretty good value. All right, let's go drive this around, see how it does in the snow. And one of the things I like about the Ioniq 6 and a lot of Hyundai, Kia, Genesis electric products is that you can fully disable the traction and stability control. And that is not something I get to do often in an EV. So yes, you can have a bit of fun in these things. It is a bit of a different experience drifting around an electric vehicle. We're on a set of Hankook all-season tires today, and they seem to do pretty well in the snow, actually. This Ioniq 6 has enough weight to really put the power down on these tires. The only strange thing is you can use the paddles to control your level of regenerative braking, and when you set that to max, basically one pedal driving, you'll notice that the rear wheels lock up occasionally when you're off throttle, and the car will kind of freak out and realize what's going on and disable your one pedal driving. So if you're on ice, slowing down from speed can be a little bit hairy sometimes, but it's not terrible. It actually works out pretty well. With the system turned on, traction control works great in this Ioniq 6. It really does a great job managing wheel slip. But yeah, you can have some fun in this thing. Mad props to Hyundai for letting us hoon their EVs. Look at this. That's awesome. Getting a max speed there of 63 miles an hour with wheel spin. See what braking performance is like on these Hankooks. This actually does very well in the snow. I haven't been wanting for anything else out of this car this week with regards to snow and ice traction. I wouldn't be too leery about getting the rear-wheel drive version of the Ioniq 6 versus all-wheel drive if I wanted to save some money and get some extra range. It's actually pretty fun to drive. Of course, it's not as fast with only 225 horsepower, but it does put its power down immediately, quickly, all at once, and I think this is kind of that sweet spot for power level with an EV anyway. It's still very quick. All right, traction control is back on. You can see here, full throttle. It's doing a nice job limiting wheel spin. We have pretty good braking performance here on this mixed surface. If one wheel is in the snow and ice and the other wheel is on dry pavement, it figures it all out. The traction control system is silent. All just works in the background. I actually haven't really used the brakes very much in this car this week, so let's see what the brake pedal feels like. A little spongy, but mostly normal feeling. This gear selector is a little bit strange. Takes some getting used to, but I actually quite like it now that I have lived with it for a few days. It's so easy to just put this between reverse to drive to park. You press this button in for park. Reverse is flip it back, drive, flip it forward. And because this is an electric vehicle, you don't really need to bring it to a complete stop to go from drive to reverse. You'll notice that at speeds of 24 miles an hour and below, this will make a subtle EV sound to let pedestrians know that you're an electric vehicle driving around them. And that can get a little bit old and loud and droney in neighborhoods at lower speeds in cities, but I guess it is a nice feature to have. The rest of the time, though, this Ioniq 6 is completely silent, which is great. Back into iPedal here. You can hear it kick on almost immediately, that sound. We have 3 different drive modes: Eco, Normal, and Sport. And those pretty much just control throttle, pedal, aggressiveness. Sport mode, gauges change to red. But honestly, this is a pretty smooth EV to drive most of the time. Highway driving assist works great. The steering assist is pretty good. It does seem to bounce around a little bit, but conditions aren't ideal today. You can quickly enable and disable the steering assist function. One of 4 different following distance settings. Yeah, it does a pretty nice job driving itself, and you can just kind of rest your hand on the wheel here. And this thing just eats up miles. This would actually be a feasible road trip vehicle with the charge speeds, and as long as you can get a charge to work in network, this should do a pretty nice job getting you from A to B. From my experience, Teslas are a little bit overrated with their EPA range, and everything else is a little bit underrated, so you should actually get pretty good mileage out of this EV. This has all the right things for a very efficient package. It's reasonably lightweight. It is rear-wheel drive, only a single motor. It has 18-inch wheels with some sidewall and pretty eco-focused all-season tires. And it's a sedan. It's a pretty aerodynamic shape. Because of the weight of this car and its weight distribution all being mounted low and evenly distributed across the platform because of that battery pack, it's basically a skateboard platform, it does quite well in the snow. We kind of noticed the same thing out of Charlie's rear-wheel drive Tesla Model Y when he had that a couple years ago. Of course, the dual motor all-wheel drive Ioniq 6 would be a monster in the snow, but honestly, how much performance do you need? In a case like this, I think the added range and the extra cost savings would make up for the times when you don't really need all-wheel drive. Ride is soft, throttle tuning is soft, everything has this kind of squishiness and padding to the personality of this car. All of your buttons, the switchgear, the steering feel, it's nice, it's consistent. The turn signal, everything's just kind of nice and comfy. While we're cruising here, let's just do a quick sound system test. Volume slider here on the steering wheel, volume knob down there. Track selection right here too. sound system isn't very good. It's not as bad as like a base Volkswagen Jetta or something like that, but it's overall pretty mediocre in the space. I feel like the base model Tesla Model 3 would have a better sound system. It's just pretty mediocre. It doesn't do a great job giving good clarity. The bass is kind of weak. It's passable, but definitely kind of one of the weakest links of this car. All right, guys. Well, those are going to be my thoughts on the 2023 Hyundai Ioniq SE long-range rear-wheel drive. Pretty solid little EV option. You don't necessarily want the Ioniq 5 and its crossover / lifted hatchback form factor. This could be a pretty good option with increased range, and if you qualify for the tax credits, a more budget-friendly option in the EV landscape as well. Funky looking thing, but it does drive well, and it's pretty nice to live with. A couple little complaints with it this week. The buggy parking sensors were a bit strange, but you can always turn those off and then turn them back on when you need them. Sound system isn't amazing. The steering wheel is a little bit high to hold onto at 9 and 3, so you end up mostly just holding onto it down here with this 2-spoke design. I like the shifter. I like the snow performance. Again, if you're going to be driving in snowy conditions more regularly, I'd probably get a set of good winter rated all seasons or just some snow tires. I could still see getting stuck in something like this happening pretty easily in deep snow. But in the conditions that we had this week, this performed admirably. If you're looking at Hyundai Ioniq 6s, I would definitely go and watch the other 2 reviews we did on the dual motor all-wheel drive cars, because they do feel a little bit more high-end. They've got some cool ambient lighting, some more features, some more power, and if range isn't that one deciding factor in your EV purchase, you're mostly going to be doing shorter trips, then maybe a dual motor all-wheel drive car with a little bit more performance and niceties would be the way to go. So definitely check out those videos if that's something you're interested in. Thanks for watching, guys. That's it for this one. We'll see you later. Take care.